Just pause the screen on that one page.
Good evening. Welcome to Russell, A Place of Promise, Designing Promise Work Groups. Thank you for joining in this informal meeting, informational meeting. My name is Jackie Floyd. I am the lead community outreach specialist with Russell Place of Promise, and I am a Russell resident. Before we get started, I would like to review the agenda with you. Next slide, please. We will the Russell Place of Promise overview, the Russell Place of Promise work group breakdown, and how to join a work group, the benefits of a work group, and then we will have question and answer time. Now we'll turn it over to Maya.
Maya, you're on mute.
Hey y'all, just talking to myself. Good evening. My name is Maya White. I'm the Senior Associate of Place of Promise Initiative, and we are here to share about our work groups and how we all can share and design our future here at RPOP. For those who don't know what RPOP is a justice-based initiative geared toward investments towards Black wealth building in the Russell neighborhood of Louisville, Kentucky. And we are in the incubation phase right now. So this visual you see of RPOP right now is the people who hold space for RPOP, Cities United, a national organization geared towards gun violence prevention across the nation. We have Louisville Metro Government, and we have Community Foundation of Louisville. And collectively, they create this initiative, this project of Russell Place of Promise. And then with their support, they take care of us and they hold space for us to do the work that we do. But as we are in this space, we want to design our future. And so by the end of 2023, we want RPOP to launch into its own standalone community-based organization designed and operated by Russell residents. And so since 2018, we have been engaging in the community through this timeline. In that first square on the left side, you see that we have been engaging with community. We are based centering residents, centering resident voices, and engaging with residents, so we can create that foundation and community resident-driven decision. So we have been engaging with community since we started in 2018, and from there we started a coalition called Russell for Russell in 2020, late 2020, where 26 residents came together and studied different models, different networking tools, learned about generational wealth building and some of the data that's happening in Russell. All things Russell we did together for about 6 months, and came to a place where we wanted to write the partnership pledge. So in that third box, you see the pledge writing and review process. And that pledge holds values and principles of Russell residents, how Russell residents believe partners that want to come into Russell, that want to do investments, future strategies and developments, policy and advocacy, community engagement, those partners, how they should engage with Russell residents and center them in the decisions they make and the decisions that they do in their neighborhoods. And so we created that document, which is available. It's probably going in the chat right now for you to check out and read and sign, especially if you're a Russell resident. But we had that writing and review process right after Russell Coalition. And then we're in the space now of the RPOP work groups. And so we'll get to more about how the work groups will work and how it will lead to that last stage of creating this future organizational form, where RPOP will no longer be in this incubation phase, but be its own standalone organization. So this is the path to designing the future of Russell Place of Promise. And so the work groups, if you're like, what is that? What does that look like? The work groups are member-led shared learning groups that consist of Russell residents, current and former, business owners that are in the Russell neighborhood, faith leaders that are in the Russell neighborhood, and also learning partners in specific fields that are needed to get us to the space of being our own standalone organization and holding the projects that need to be done from the work groups. It's also a capacity of residents and the people who I mentioned before that are meeting regularly over several months to review, strategize, design approaches for Black wealth building in Russell, because that's what we're all about, is building for Black wealth. So there's 2 different work groups that we will be having. One is organizational form, so deciding what the future organizational form of RPOP will be. And then the other is the Madison Street work group. And I will pass it on to Cassandra and Teresa, and they will share what both of those look like as we think forward towards the future of RPOP.
Thank you, Maya. So this is an exciting time for Russell Place of Promise. We just have 24 months left in our incubation phase, which is a very exciting time, but also it's a lot. It's a lot of decisions that we have to make, but we are really looking forward to making these decisions, these shared decisions with community members and with Russell residents. So as Maya mentioned, we have 2 work groups that will be launching at the end of February. And that first work group is Future Organizational Forum. And that will be led by myself. And I forgot to mention who I was. I'm Cassandra Webb. I am one of the co-leads for Russell Place of Promise. And I'm the director for Place of Promise Initiatives for Cities United. So I will be leading this work group alongside Maya, as well as a resident co-lead. So if you're interested in learning more about what does that mean to be a resident co-lead for this work group and for the other work group, please stick around, stay tuned, because we'll be sharing a little bit more about that later on. But this particular work group is going to be focused on RPOP's growth out of incubation. So what will we become in 24 months? What type of organization will we be? Will we be a nonprofit? Will we be, a community land trust? Will we be really any entity that community really decides this is the best route. And in order for us to decide what form that we should take, we really need to determine the functions. We know the overall vision and the goals of Russell Place of Promise is to invest in community, and investment without displacement of Russell residents, and to build Black wealth. But what does that mean around the functions? How are we going to get there? And the functions are going to lead us to the form, what type of future form that we should take as our own standalone entity. So some of the models that we're considering and have been considering in the past and are currently considering and will continue to explore is a community land trust. So one of those examples of a community land trust is the Dudley Street Initiative, which is a community land trust that has been really interesting to us because it's one of the oldest community land trusts out there. It has so much community power, so many residents that really back the community land trust. It owns property and it's able to maintain affordable housing for the community members. It also has a commercial property that it owns that's owned by the community, and they do community engagement events. So they bring community members together to celebrate, to celebrate Black joy, to celebrate families and children. And so it's a beautiful example of what potentially RPOP could become. We're also exploring a cooperative, and some of those examples look like Cooperation Jackson and the Ujima Project, as well in Boston, Massachusetts. And Cooperation Jackson is in Jackson, Mississippi. We're also considering a real estate investment trust, or a RIT. And one of those examples is the Community Investment Trust. The other example that we're exploring is a social benefit corporation, and Grayson Bakery up in the Northeast is an example of that. If anyone loves the Ben and Jerry's, ice cream and you like the brownies in the ice cream pints, I know I do, they come from Greyston Bakery. And that's one of the potential forms, that social benefit corporation that we're exploring. And then lastly is the traditional like nonprofit form, which one of the examples, two of the examples that we're looking at that are nonprofits that are focused on Black and Brown wealth building is the Jacob Center out in California, and then Higher Purpose, which is down in Mississippi. Next slide. So our goals for this organizational form work group will be to explore what organizational form RPOP will have while thinking about the functions, as I mentioned, the functions we want RPOP to have after incubation. So do we want our focus to continue to be on housing, on workforce, on business development, on community ownership of neighborhood assets? Or do we want to prioritize some of those functions, or only have a couple of those functions, or add additional functions to the organization? Whatever, again, those functions are, will determine the type of incubation, the form that we should take. What we do know right now, up until this point, is that we do want RPOP to have the ability, alongside with community members, to own property. So that is one of those functions that we know, as we're looking into the types of forms the organization should take, we know that it needs to take a form to be able to own property. And then still within there's so many other options, organizational form options to explore. And then lastly, we also want to be able to figure out how we generate income to support the organizations. So a lot of these different forms, they could accept grants, others can't accept grants. Even if an organization can accept grants, there's still going to need to be a consistent flow of income that comes in to support the functions of the organization, to support the staffing, and all the different activities and events that that organization does. And the other thing that we want to be able to walk away with by the end of this work group is to also, once we figure out the functions and once we figure out the form, we want to figure out the types of roles that need to be in place. So should we do, one head of the organization, or we have been exploring, what does co-leadership look like, right? So right now in incubation form, we're co-leading. Teresa and I co-lead this project together. There are similar organizations that have co-executive directors, co-directors, whether that's 2 or 3 or 4. And so that could be a potential leadership form. So we need to determine the types of leadership roles, what types of responsibilities that they would be doing, and the ideal candidate profile. Who would be the ideal person to be in these roles? And our goal, of course, is to make sure that those roles are fulfilled by current or former Russell residents or individuals that have some connection to the neighborhood, whether that is through family, through growing up in the neighborhood, through maybe being connected to churches or community-based organizations, or whatever it may be. We want to make sure that the leadership of RPOP in the future has some connection to the neighborhood, and that they are leading the organization in good faith with the community that is backing them. And I'll pass it over to Teresa to talk about our 30th and Madison Street work group.
Hi, y'all, and thanks, Cassandra. I'm Teresa Zawacki. I am the other co-lead for Russell, A Place of Promise. I'm on loan from Louisville Metro Government doing this work. And the Madison Street work group also has a lot of things that it will take on over the next 6 months. It's going to be co-led by me and by Miss Jackie and a resident, and stick around for more details on that, like Cassandra said. The first thing that we're going to do with this work group is to look at all the work that we've done on this project to date. We're going to catch people up. We've had a series of community meetings over the past couple of years to talk through this work as it's been happening, but we want to level set and really get grounded in the things that have happened with our friends at Arcadis, who did some amazing baseline documentation for us about what the site was before the buildings were demolished. We also want to look through the work that's been done with grant support from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. Metro government has supported our relationship with the EPA in getting environmental assessment done on the property, and we've gotten some great consulting work from Tetra Tech, which is a local environmental company that has done this work for us. So we'll look at all those documents and really start to understand what's possible on the site as a result of what the history of the site. And then we are currently in a longer relationship with some wonderful architects and land use planners at an architecture firm called Perkins and Will. And Perkins and Will has really taken this project on in terms of helping us collect information from residents about the history and the relationship that they have with the site, and also thinking about what residents would like to see happen here in the future. And so one of the goals for this work group will be to host a community design workshop for a first phase of development. And that will be done with support and partnership from our friends at Perkins and Will. We will also be working to develop a plan for financing and community ownership of phase one. And so just to take it all the way back to the beginning, when Russell, A Place of Promise launched, we received a commitment from Metro government to work through the process that will ultimately lead to a request to the Louisville Metro Council to declare this property, which is located at the corner of 30th and Muhammad Ali and Madison Street across from the Urban League Sports and Learning Center, as surplus. And that is a step in a process of gaining ownership of this land so that it can be developed for some sort of mixed commercial business space that allows Russell residents to be co-owners of the development. It also creates a space for Russell residents and other folks from probably the West End who are interested in owning businesses that are located in this space. And so what we are going to be doing with this Madison Street work group is starting the planning process and the decision-making process to break up the process of developing a big commercial site like this into manageable sized bites that residents can help us make decisions about. We are very committed to resident decision making through every stage of this development process. And so this is the first step. This will also lay the groundwork for the conversations that need to happen later this year with our friends at the Metro Council. This is in Councilwoman Donna Purvis's district, and we are very aware that nothing can happen on this site without the Metro Council saying, yes, the site can be surplused, this site can go to Russell, A Place of Promise. And so we're eager to have those conversations, but know that we've got to get through some more community conversations that this work group is going to help us accomplish in order to be ready for that to happen. So if you are interested in joining us for these really interesting and really exciting things that we've listed on this slide, and want to be involved in designing the future of the Madison Street property, then I will encourage you to join the work group, and I will pass it back for more information about how that can happen.
Thanks, Teresa. So there are a few roles that are associated to our work groups. So, and this, if you're interested in like figuring out how you want to plug in, this is the time to learn how you can do that. So the first role I'm going to talk about is a resident participant. So we want in these work groups to have at least, our goal is to have at least 70% of the work group participants to be Russell residents. They can be former residents or they can be current residents, but we want them to have lived experience in the neighborhood, and that's 70%. And that's really important for us to have the majority of these work group participants to be Russell residents. And I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but we want each work group to have at least 20 people in each work group. So altogether, it'd be about 45, maybe a little bit more with the resident co-leads as well. But we want each work group to have 20 participants. So, and 70% altogether to be residents. As a resident participant, we want you to share your experience. We want you to be dedicated to this process. We want you to have knowledge, the knowledge of Russell that you have because you live in the Russell neighborhood, and the history that you have in the neighborhood. We want you to bring that into the space. We want you to be excited and to be curious, to learn new and innovative economic models and structures that we'll be studying together. We want you also to bring your talents and your skills. So if you are an awesome writer, you love to write, or you want to get better at writing, we want to write with you. If you have an awesome skill at facilitation, you like to stand up in front of a room, you like to direct people, you like to, public speaking, we need that skill on this, in this work group. If you love photography, or you love art, or you love any form of expression, we want you to bring that into the space as well as a Russell resident participant. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to learn about organizational models, about the different national models that we were referring to earlier, you want to learn more about commercial real estate, learn more about law, if you're interested in that, this is your time to learn those things too. The second role is that we will have resident co-leads. So we had mentioned how myself, Maya, Teresa, and Miss Jackie, we are leading these work groups, but we want to have a co-lead, a resident co-lead alongside with us. So each work group is going to have 3 leads for the work group. So 2 staff and then 1 resident co-lead. And that resident co-lead is going to help prepare and work with us in planning for the work groups. With our RPOP staff, they're going to help us co-facilitate the work group meetings to plan out the different activities and maybe the different events and maybe field trips over the 10-week period. And they will also be sharing their knowledge and experience and history and dedication for the Russell neighborhood. The third position is, third role rather, is a learning partner. So in this, we know that we are all bringing a set of skills and expertise to this work group process, and we need some friendly allies along the way that are learning partners that aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily live in the Russell neighborhood, they live outside of the neighborhood, but they have some experience and expertise that is really going to be valuable to the work that we're doing. So for instance, that could be somebody that is really well versed in law, especially like tax law, property, commercial real estate law. We're gonna need someone, if you have that expertise, we want you to join us. If you have the expertise in starting up an organization, because we are starting, launching a new organization, and you have that skill set of how to incorporate, nonprofit paperwork or any types of the entities that we're exploring that paperwork, we want you to bring that and share that with us. So learning partners, we want 30% of the work group participants to be learning partners. So non-residents that are dedicated and interested and curious and willing to share the knowledge and expertise with us in a specific field that they can contribute to. And they're also interested and curious in learning about new and innovative models and structures and willing to study and work together with Russell residents and with the RPOP staff. And then lastly, the role that we have is our RPOP staff. So the 4 of us, we are the team members that are working on Russell Place of Promise on a daily basis. We will be doing the planning. We'll do the administrative and logistics work. We'll do the co-facilitating with the co-leads and other participants. And we'll be doing the coordination of and development of the curriculum and the logistics for the work groups. All right, so how do you join? So this is all may sound interesting, like you're just like, okay, I need to plug in right now. So how do you get involved? Well, we have an application link that's being dropped on Facebook. We also have been sharing some graphics all over our social media pages with the application link, but you can also go to our website. So if you go to www.russellpromise.com, you'll see on the top of the page a link where you can find the application for the work groups. So apply online, apply by Monday, January 31st. We'll review your interest form and we'll assess our capacity to be able to bring you on, the different skill sets that you're bringing, your interest in which work groups, and then we'll determine from there which work group makes the most sense for you. And we will be having 10 meetings. So we also want folks to be available, right? So if you are not only interested, but you have the availability, your schedule aligns with the work that we're trying to do, we want you to be a part of these work groups. So we're having 10 meetings that will be happening bi-weekly on Wednesday evenings, starting February 23rd, and they will run until June 10th. And those will be held at 6 p.m. and go until 7:30. So they are 90-minute commitments every other Wednesday from February 23rd to June 10th. In addition to the commitments on the Wednesdays, on bi-weekly Wednesdays, we are also going to have study groups. So on the off weeks, we will have study group sessions for the individual work groups to do more work, to be maybe listening to some guest speakers, maybe just strategizing, maybe doing some writing. There will be activities even in those off weeks that we're asking the work group participants to be committed to, because that's really where we're going to get the majority of the work done. So you need to be not only available for the bi-weekly Wednesdays, but also for those off weeks for some time, at least for 60 minutes, to meet with the work group. And those study group sessions are going to be determined based on everyone's availability. So we don't want to select a date yet until we see everyone that's in the group and check folks' availability, and then we'll confirm at that time. On June 29th, we are going to host a graduation, and it's not just going to be a graduation for the participants, but it's also going to be a presentation, because by the end of these work groups, we are going to share a set of recommendations that each work group has. They want to share publicly. They want to share to the rest of the Russell community to say, this is what we came up with. Is this, what do y'all want to do from this, the research that we've done, what we've learned, what we think is best? Is this the right route we want to take? And we want folks that have completed and signed up for the Russell Partnership Pledge to be the ones to vote. So a quick plug, if you haven't signed up for the Russell Partnership Pledge, we're going to drop the link right now. Please make sure that you sign up. If you are all down for Russell Place of Promise, you're down for our shared values, we want you to sign the pledge and say yes, like you're signing on to this. And we want all the work group participants to sign on to that pledge. It's so important. That is a grounding document for us. If you are not in alignment with that partnership pledge, this may not be the best thing for you, right? So we want to make sure that everyone reads that partnership pledge. And if it's in alignment with what you want to do, if you're really interested in these work groups, if you have the availability, then we want you to be a part of this process. So we'll have that graduation, plus it will be a presentation of the recommendations out into the community. And then we'll have a couple weeks or a few weeks for folks to vote on those recommendations that came out of the work groups. And again, the voting process will be for those that have signed the partnership pledge. And then in July and August, we want to take some trips. We want to go see some of these places, these models that we've been interested in. And COVID has stopped our travel. We weren't able to travel last year. So we're hoping that this summer, once the COVID numbers have settled back down, that we're able to safely travel. And we want folks that are participating in these work groups to travel with us, with RPOP staff. We want you all to learn with us. We want to be able to network with other cities, other organizations that are doing similar work, because it's so important for us not only to build relationships within the neighborhood, but also within, across the country, folks that are doing similar work as us. So those national site visits are really exciting. So if you want to travel too, it's a big plus. Keep that in mind, and hold your calendar for July and August. And then lastly, participants must be able to commit to at least 8 sessions to be actively engaged. So we will be having 10 sessions. We hope that everyone can attend all 10 sessions, but we know things happen, right? And you may not be able to do all 10, but we need folks to at least attend 8 sessions. And we also expect folks, as I mentioned, to sign the partnership pledge. Again, if you are wondering, you want to learn more about RPOP, you want to learn more about the R for R process that we talked about, and how we got to writing this document, the partnership pledge, that website really outlines our process. We also expect folks to be actively engaged in meetings and in study groups on Wednesdays. So we want folks to be asking, like, how do I show up and lead? Like, what can I take responsibility for? What can I research? What can I write? What can I document? How can I use my ways of expression? How can that show up in the groups? How can I do presentations out into community? We want folks to be curious, asking questions. So not only in those bi-weekly meetings, but also in the study groups. And then we also ask for confidentiality. So the conversations that we are having internally, there's going to be some questions that are being asked, some topics thrown out, and we just want to keep things as until we are ready to share publicly. We want to keep things inside because this is a big brainstorming process. We're just trying to figure things out as we go, and we don't want to release something too early when we're in the midst of processing and trying to determine if that's the route we want to take. So we do ask folks that if you want to participate, just keep it internal until we get ready to share it out, everything out publicly. I also want to mention, before I pass it, I think, back over to Maya, is that a part of being in these work groups, I know some folks are maybe like, well, man, this is a lot of work. This is a huge commitment, right? So outside of like the expectations that we have for you all, there are some awesome benefits as well. So I had mentioned one of the benefits, and that benefit being able to travel, but there's also, we want to make sure that people are compensated for their time, for their energy, for their talents, for their skill sets, for their ideas. And so there is a stipend that residents receive for participating. And so if you go to the interest form and check out that, you'll see what that stipend is and how that stipend will be allocated. But folks will be able to receive a stipend, a portion of it at the beginning of the work group sessions, and then the rest of it at the end of the work groups. Oh, and that's where it is.
Yes,
So,
very
sorry, my
timely.
bad.
No, it was on time.
Okay.
Perfect transition, because we want to know what are the benefits, what will we receive, what will happen in this space as we're learning together in community. And the stipend is up to $1,000 for your time, which is about $100 per session. So we're asking that you come to all 10, at least 8, but you will be compensated for your time because we will be studying. We will be in community with each other, more Zoom time. So we want to make sure that that is being taken care of, and that you are being taken care of as part of this experience. Another thing that is a benefit, what you receive as a work group member, is the opportunity to travel to see different models across the nation. There's so many different places that we can go. The West, the South, the Northeast. And so there's options, and there will be opportunities for us to travel and learn about these innovative models that are currently happening in different spaces. One of the things about traveling, though, is that you have to be vaccinated to travel. And so that is a requirement in the traveling, that you have to be vaccinated. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about traveling, that you will be vaccinated. But to be a part of the work groups, you don't have to, but you won't be able to have to, you don't have to be vaccinated to be a part of the work groups, but to travel, you will have to be. Another thing is just growth in skills. Public speaking, opportunities to share this message, maybe the message about RPOP, the options of sharing, space with other community members and convening to create space about learning the models and sharing that with other people besides the workgroup members. Facilitating, those are some skills that we'll be able to grow in this space. Research, because everything is new and new to us, or innovative, that we will be doing a lot of researching and writing and reading. and, you know, maximizing our time doing that stuff. So you will be gaining skills and finding new resources and sharing them with us and sharing them in the study group sessions. And then writing as well, because we're planning, we're creating, that requires the writing portion of that, and increasing the skills in that. What will be produced? So what are the outcomes of the work groups? One is recommendations for each topic. So as we're thinking about the future organizational forum, what we're going to become, we hope to have at least 2 recommendations, suggestions of what the future organization will be. So it can be nonprofit and cooperative, it can be CLT and a special hybrid type of cooperative, whatever we decide to do as we be in spaces together studying and in deciding. We need recommendations for that, and also for the Madison Street group, recommendations of how those the development will go forward. In that work group, we will also produce a public voting space, right? A public voting decision-making process, because we want a lot of the Russell residents to be a part of the decision-making, how we're going to make those decisions. So we will create a public voting process. And then the last thing is something's in my way. A more defined timeline for the next 18 months leading to RPOP's launch. So after we meet, we'll have more defined timeline of how to get there, because we'll know the functions of how we're going to operate. We're going to know what the operation is actually going to be. So we'll have more of a defined timeline to say, this is what RPOP is leading towards, and this is how we're going to launch into this space in 2024. So with all that being said, the deadline to apply for the work groups is on January 31st. You can go to www.russellpromise.com and it will take you to the interest form to apply. There's also some things probably being dropped in the comments on Facebook, so you can click there and go straight to the form as well. But we also have space for questions. So if you are watching us live right now on Facebook and you have any questions, please share. We can go back to a slide. Everybody is here that is able to answer a question.
And we're just gonna wait a little bit just in case you're like, you know, you're still kind of thinking through what your question could be. But I do see that we have a comment from someone that's trying to determine which of the 2 work groups that they should be in. And I know it's hard, because these are both awesome work groups. But the good thing is, no matter which work group that you're gonna be in, we're all gonna be meeting together on Wednesdays virtually. Right, so we'll be in the same virtual Zoom space together. It's just that we're going to have some breakout sessions, right? So one work group will go over in their own breakout room, the other one will be in another breakout room, and then we're going to come back together, and then we're going to share what we learned. So just, you know, just if you're just like, man, I'm really split, just know there's still a way for you to hear what the other work group is doing, for you to give input on what they're doing. So just know that. It looks like we have a question. It says, if you want to help but can't commit to the 10-week program, how else can you get involved? That's an awesome question. So I would say one of the things is, if you can, even if you know you can't necessarily commit to the 10-week program, if you can complete the interest form anyway, because on the interest form, it asks that question, like, would you be able to commit to the 10 weeks? And it also asks, it prompts like what other ways you want to contribute. And so if you just complete the interest form and say like, hey, I can't do the full 10 weeks, but I do have this skill, or I do have this talent that I want to share. So again, like that can be anything from like, you know, I'm a really good photographer and I just want to, like, when you all meet in person, I want to make sure I'm capturing those shots. Or I'm a really good writer, so I want to be able to help tell the story. Or I'm a really good public speaker, and maybe you want to do some presentations with us, right? Whatever that talent or skill is, you can definitely plug in. So just complete that form. Let us know what that skill or talent is, and then we'll be able to go through the interest form and then figure out where we can plug you in. And there will also be some times where maybe we have a particular work group session and you like that topic. And we're like, okay, well, that would be a great opportunity for you to just plug into that one particular session, or, 2 or 3 sessions, but you can't stay the whole 10 or 8 sessions. That's totally okay. And also want to say, if you can do 8 out of the 10, we still want you, right? So even if you can't do all 10, if you can do 8, we can make that work if you could do 8 out of the 10. And so we have some other comments about how informative this is, a lot of information. Thanks y'all, like this is a lot of information. No, it is. So, and the great thing about Zoom and being in a virtual space, all of this is recorded. And it's on Facebook, so you can go back to Facebook and watch this recording to make sure that you captured, you heard everything, captured everything. And also we have a lot of links that we dropped in this video below, so you can revisit, go to those websites, revisit that information. You can also, if you have some additional questions, maybe nothing comes up for you right now, you can ask your questions on that interest form. Again, encouraging everybody to go to that interest form and complete that. But if maybe you don't want to complete the interest form, but you just want to email one of us, feel free to email. I think let's Maya's email, if it's okay if we can drop Maya's email. Reach out to Maya if you have questions. Reach out to us on social media, so you can DM us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. You can private message us there as well. Email and complete the interest form. Any other comments or questions from folks?
Cassandra, someone just texted me that what if you don't live in Russell, but you're planning to move into Russell? Could they still be part of the work group?
That's a great question. I say again, complete the interest form. Let us know that you don't necessarily live in Russell right now, but you're planning to. So maybe you plan on by the start of the interest group sessions, which is not March, but February 23rd, the work groups. Maybe you plan by then to be moved into Russell, or within that time frame, right? Between February and June, you plan on being a Russell resident. Still encourage you to complete the interest form and just let us know where it says, like, if you have additional comments or questions, let us know that you're planning to move into the Russell neighborhood within that time frame of the work groups. And also want to encourage you, we got a note from our communications guru, Daphne. She's asking us to let y'all know to please spread the word to your neighbors and other people that you know. If you have, live next door to someone that you're like, wow, I know that they would be awesome for doing this, please spread the word to them. Send them a text message, knock on their door, socially distanced though, after with the mask on, knock on their door, let them know, hey, I heard about this thing with RPOP. It seems like this would be a great fit for you. And let them know the information, direct them to the social media pages. If they have questions, again, reach out to Maya. You can also private message us, and then watch this video, of course, to get more information.
Another person just texted me, Cassandra, will there be opportunities for us to stay involved with RPOP after the work groups end?
Yes, and Miss Jackie, she got the line, y'all. She's connected to the folks, the text messages, okay? So yes, so if you participate in the work groups, we are going to be calling on you afterwards, all the time. So whenever we need something, you will be in our Rolodex of folks that we will be reaching out to. And even if you don't participate in the work groups, but again, you complete the interest form, we want to be connected to you. So once COVID numbers go back down and it gets warmer outside in Louisville, we do plan to resume our in-person events. We're not doing any in-person events right now for the month of January, but hopefully by March, when March rolls around, or April, we are back out and doing a lot of in-person activities, from canvassing to hosting events. So those are great ways to plug in and get to know us, whether that's a volunteer you want to participate, you want to, bring your family, your friends. Those are ways to get involved. And of course, again, if you have, any talent and skill, which all of us do, show up and tell us how you want to contribute that to the work of RPOP. Anything else, team, before I close this out? All right. If nothing else, I do want to make sure that I advertise some of our upcoming events that we got going on. So our next event that we have is actually next Thursday. On Thursday, January 20th, we are hosting our housing and interest meeting for individuals that are current homeowners in the Russell neighborhood. So if you already own a home in the Russell neighborhood and you're interested in learning more about resources for home repairs or for support around like legal support, like you're interested in like, how do I write this will and make sure that my family members, someone in my family is able to take on my property afterwards. Or if you just have any like legal type of questions, we want to know what those questions are so then we can start to craft ways to make sure that we get you connected to those resources. So next Thursday at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live, we're hosting our housing interest meeting session for current homeowners. Check that out. Thank you, Maya, for pulling that up on the screen. So are you a Russell homeowner interested in building stronger relationships with your neighbors? This is the time for you to hop on Thursday, January 20th from 7 to 8 p.m. on Facebook Live. We have our two team members, Chastity White and Alonzo Richmond, that will be leading this conversation. And we'll also have a guest speaker sharing some resources about housing as well during that time. But we want to hear from you. We want to know, why you decide to live in the Russell neighborhood. What keeps you living in the Russell neighborhood? What supports and resources would you need to make sure that your house is staying, maintained and is the best home that it can be in the neighborhood for you, for your family, and for the community. So please check that out. We're also going to do another event, a housing event on January 27th. We have not released a flyer for that just yet, but that is going to be coming out soon. We also are going to be hosting our, on January 29th, our Faith Leaders Luncheon, which is a virtual luncheon on that Saturday morning from 10:30 to 12 o'clock. It's going to be hosted by WLOU's Crystal Goodner-Spratt and our team member Alonzo Vermont. And we have a phenomenal lineup of panelists that will be joining us. So so one of our panelists is Reverend Dr. Corey Scholl. He's a JCPS Board of Education Vice Chair, as well as a senior pastor of Burnett Avenue Baptist Church. We have the Reverend Dr. Jamesetta Ferguson, who is a phenomenal woman who did a large community development project in the Russell neighborhood. And she is a woman that has so much knowledge, so much love for the community of Russell. And she's the president of Molo Village and the pastor of St. Peter's UCC. So if you have not stopped at 12th and Jefferson, at 13th and Jefferson, and seen that development, the Molo Village development, you should check that out, because that's where you got the new AMPS offices, you got Dripping Crab, you got a new Park Community Credit Union branch. It is a phenomenal space, so check that out. We also have Pastor Raymond Smith, who is the president of Orawa Financial, which is a division of Park Community Credit Union. And this division of Park Community Orawa focuses on how to get faith community members in particular connected into financial institutions. So if churches want to do more community development projects, Pastor Raymond Smith and president of Urban Financial, he is the guy to know. And then lastly but not least, we will also have Pastor Tim Finley Jr., president of the Kingdom Fellowship Life and Development Corporation and pastor of Kingdom Fellowship Christian Life Center, to be joining us. So y'all, this lineup is awesome. And it's an open discussion about faith leaders' role in community engagement, business development, policy, education, and more. And although it's labeled, Faith Leaders Luncheon, this is really open up for the community. So if you are connected to a faith community, and whether that's any denomination, any faith in Russell or West Louisville, this is a conversation for you to jump in on, for you to either participate via Zoom. And if you want the Zoom link, make sure that you register through our website. Go to www.russellpromise.com to register if you want to be inside of the Zoom. If not, you just want to join on Facebook Live, that's cool too. So hop on our Facebook Live at 10:30 on Saturday, January 29th. And then the last event I want to plug, we don't have a flyer for this one just yet, but on Monday, January 31st, which is also the deadline for to express your interest in the work group sessions, we are going to be hosting an evening event on Facebook Live that is the 2022 preview event. So we want to let y'all know other exciting things that are happening this year, because y'all, we got a lot going on. A lot. Work groups is just one part of it. We got so many events, so many activities, so many exciting things that are planned for this year, that as we meet on a regular basis as a team, we're just like, oh, there's more. And so we're just excited to be doing all of this work. And we need your all's help. So everyone that's like, how do I plug in? Don't fret. We got a whole bunch of roles. You can plug in anywhere, really. And so January 31st, that evening on Facebook Live, it'll be myself, Teresa, as well as Daphne on our communications team that is giving you the timeline, the lineup of 2022. And so that's the time to plug in, hear what we got going on, and say, that's what I want to contribute to. So check that out. The flyer will be coming up soon. And before I wrap us up, anything else on Facebook, anything else, the text message, Ms. Jackie, any other text messages?
No.
Okay, y'all. Well, it was a great evening. I hope that this was informative. I hope this was a transparent conversation. But again, if you have any questions, message us on our social media. Reach out to Maya. Her email address is in the Facebook comments. And you can also complete the interest form. And we'll get your information and we can follow up that way. And again, the deadline for to be a resident participant in the work groups, the deadline is Monday, January 31st. And to be a learning partner as a part of the work groups, that deadline is January 31st. Talk to you all soon.